what's going on, guys? It's Matt back with another video. Today I'm doing a review of the original Fujifilm X100. It's still a beautiful camera now. I did at one point own the X100V for a couple months, so that is my reference point for how I can like compare the physical attributes of this, and I can like tell you, obviously this is the oldest version of the X100, is the first iteration. It's actually called the Fujifilm FinePix X100, so I don't think any of them after that were called FinePix anything. That was like the consumer line, but it's still a really great camera now. This is actually before the first X-Trans sensor, so this is actually a Bayer sensor in here. But yeah, Fujifilm released this in, I believe, like 2012 or 2010 even. I have to put the year on screen because I don't know actually for sure. But a subscriber, Frank, sent this to me. So shout out to Frank. Thank you so much. That's so cool. When Frank sent me this, he actually sent me with a leather case and a lens hood. But I like to like put the camera in my pocket, so I carry it like this. But I'll definitely show you some B-roll. So shout out to Frank. Thank you so much for sending that. And sometimes I do shoot it like that, but a lot of times I'm trying to like really go for compactness with an X100 camera. Even though it's the oldest version and Fujifilm cameras get progressively better build quality over time, this still does have a pretty good build quality. It's made of metal, and I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's gonna fall apart. Everything feels like solidly constructed. I do notice that it doesn't have like any grip at all. It's super hard to grip. So that leather case that Frank sent me this in makes it much easier to hold. But I got used to, like, I figured out a way. But it's not the most comfortable thing to hold, but you kind of trade off the ergonomics for the super compact size, right? I don't think on the X100F, I don't remember, but I don't think that the shutter speed dial locked on it either like the X-T3, but it doesn't on here, and it's actually pretty easy to bump, as well as the exposure compensation dial. None of these dials have very much resistance. The aperture dial and the shutter speed dial are in full stops. So to fine-tune the aperture, you have the back dial here. And to fine-tune the shutter speed, there's actually a scroll wheel, which is also a D-pad. I don't really like the scroll wheel. It is a way to like go through the menus. You don't have to do it to go through the menus, but to do certain things like you can, if you're changing your ISO and you're looking at the back of the screen, you can go up and down on the D-pad or the scroll wheel, I believe. But whenever you're up in the optical viewfinder, you have to use the scroll wheel when you're fine-tuning your shutter speed. It's a very specific thing, but I don't really like the scroll wheel, and I'm glad that they ended up getting rid of that. I do like the D-pad. I prefer like the X100F because it has both the joystick and the D-pad. I've never shot a Fujifilm camera that just had the joystick, but not having done that, I would think I prefer to have a D-pad or something. So, but yeah, there's just a couple different things like that. And also the back dial, it doesn't like scroll like it continuously turn. It's like a little nub that just turns, like you can take it like once and then it goes back to the middle. You can go to either side like that. Maybe that's better for weather sealing, but I don't know. I like the scroll dials that actually scroll. Neither of the viewfinders on this are really great. Earlier I was forcing myself, I went on a photo walk and I was forcing myself to use the optical viewfinder, and it's just really not that sharp. And then also on like a bright sunny day, the overlays, the electronic overlays, so you can see like your light meter and like your settings, like your aperture and your shutter speed, all that's like not bright enough to see in the optical viewfinder on a bright day. And then the electronic viewfinder is also not very bright either. So I don't know, it's just the viewfinder LEDs or whatever inside aren't super bright, especially on a bright day, and it's just not the easiest to use out there. It also has, obviously, if you've seen any reviews of any of the X100 cameras up to the X100F, it has the first 23 f2, which has really bad up-close pictures at f2. I don't even have an example. I just didn't shoot it like that because I don't like the image quality. I don't think the image quality is that great at f2 really that much. Like it's fine in like broad daylight, but especially at night, like you have like some weird artifacts with bright light sources. And also this doesn't have the best high ISO performance. It does have some color noise, especially getting into like 3200 ISO, but if you turn it to black and white, it can be pretty pleasing. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, up until like maybe 800, 1600, the ISO is pretty pleasing. But I guess I should talk about the difference between the Bayer image sensor in here and an X-Trans sensor. I do think I prefer the look of an X-Trans sensor. I have an XM1. I've had every iteration of the X-Trans sensor other than the newest XH2S's X-Trans 5 sensor. I haven't obviously tested that, but I do prefer just the colors of an X-Trans sensor, especially X-Trans 1 versus this. And this, by the way, if you're a person that likes film simulations, actually you can't even do film like JPEG film simulations on here. You can't really tweak your highlights and stuff to an extent that you can really customize a film simulation. And if you're just shooting RAW like I do, and I prefer to shoot RAW, I guess the JPEGs are good on this, but I don't like shooting JPEG. I have never been able to get it to a point that I've liked it, but I don't know, the film simulations, they're just not the same on this as they are on later Fujifilm cameras. Pro Via especially has really, really low contrast. And it's basically like, you have Pro Via with super low contrast, you have Astia with some more contrast, and Velvia with the most contrast, and obviously the most vibrant colors. But I don't know, the film simulations don't inspire me as much on this. It's not like I'm trashing this camera, but it's the oldest version of the camera, and it's obviously the least refined. They've gotten better over time, but there is something I do love about this camera. There's something I do like about the way the files look. Even though it's not like an X-Trans camera, it does have a special look and feel to the pictures, and I do really enjoy it. And obviously, if you put good light in front of this lens, you can get great pictures, and that's with any camera. You can get great pictures. Here's a picture from a Sigma DP2, the classic Sigma DP2. It's like a 4 or 6 megapixel camera. It's a really low resolution camera, but it's a great picture because it's good light. And that's what you need for good pictures, especially on low contrast days, because like shooting in Pro Via, like your pictures can be honestly really bland coming out of this. And I think the key is good light. This camera, it keeps you honest. This camera keeps you honest in a way that, like, if you have bad light and bad composition, your pictures aren't going to look good. But if you have good light and good composition, your pictures look great. I went on a walk out in the forest. I just got this picture here of these ferns, and it's magical. Like, it's not that this camera isn't capable of taking amazing pictures. It just keeps me honest. And like, sometimes I feel like with the X-T3, in like any situation, in any light, I'm able to like pull something and like edit the files so much that it's like, it's not originally what the scene even looked like, but it looks good, kind of. But this is like, you know, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's just because the files aren't as pushable because it's an older sensor, but it keeps me honest. I don't know how to describe it any other way. I should mention that it's a 12 megapixel sensor instead of 16 megapixels, which is the X-Trans 1 and 2 sensors are 16 megapixels. But it's not like 12 megapixels are insufficient. Here's some landscape photos I took. Great image quality. I'd be happy to put these on a website or something. I don't think you could print them absolutely gigantic, but you could upscale them if you needed. And yeah, image quality is not something that holds this camera back. And autofocus is honestly fine too. It's obviously not like a sports action camera, so like continuous autofocus of fast moving subjects, I think you'd know that the oldest Fujifilm camera is not going to handle that very well. But in a regular situation, even in lower light situations, with sometimes a little bit of patience, the autofocus works great. And the manual focus works too if you find that the autofocus is hunting too much because it's contrast based. Maybe there's not a lot of contrast in your scene. But yeah, you have the manual focus, has focus peaking, like it has everything that you need just as a basic photography tool to get great images. If you have a nostalgia for old Fujifilm cameras and you've been looking after the X100, maybe pick it up. I mean, you can probably get a great bargain on one. Like I said, I looked back at the images and it just did have this different, distinct look. And I was like, you know what, I do like that, and I think I'll be nostalgic for that, and I'll want that look for something like going on a vacation or something. I think I'd want to take this camera along, and especially since it's an old camera too, like I feel like also a value of getting an old Fujifilm camera is that you can take it places with you and not have to worry about it as like you do with your professional camera. Like if I'm carrying around my X-T3 with a $800 33mm 1.4 lens, like I'm gonna be really nervous about like setting that down somewhere, and just like it's gonna be constantly on my mind. I'm not gonna be able to like think about what I'm doing as much as like keeping track of my camera that I use for my work. But having like a casual camera, a camera like this that I can take and I can just like have it in my pocket, use it when I want it, it's just a different mindset, and it actually makes for better photography in some cases, more candid, just genuine moments. So yeah, anyway, I'm done rambling. I hope you enjoyed this review. Check out the X100 if you'd like. Any one of the X100 series. I would absolutely love to try the X100V someday, just because I love the X-Trans 4 sensor, and I think the X100V could be potentially a regular part of my kit, but I also love changing lenses as well. So I'll be holding on to this. Thank you so much, Frank. I don't have any intentions of selling this anytime soon, just so you know. And yeah, that's all I gotta say, guys. So like this video if you enjoyed, leave a comment down below, join in the conversation. What do you think of your old Fujifilm cameras? And I'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace.